enter the 2024 season with true championship aspirations. But the journey has been marred by several disappointing bumps in the road. Tonight, the still-determined Summit retake the field knowing there's no more margin for error as they host the Indianapolis AlleyCats in the next chapter of the UFA Super Series. Next. Our Super Series showdown tonight features two teams both in the midst of intense playoff races in their respective divisions. And here in absolutely picture-perfect Golden, Colorado, we welcome you to the Ultimate Frisbee Association's Super Series matchup, the first ever meeting between the Indianapolis AlleyCats, they're 4-4, and the Colorado Summit are a surprising 4-6. Welcome again, everybody. Evan Lepler with Ian Toner and Chuck Kindred. And this is a matchup we've never seen before in the league. Indy's been around forever. They finally get to taste the Colorado Mile High air tonight.
I know, and as a Midwesterner, I can tell you when you come out here, it's not pleasant. The sun is really bright. The air is very thin. Nothing's going your way. But Indiana's got a lot of toughness, a lot of resolve. And like that scrap last week, that was one of my favorite games this year to watch. I mean, maybe it wasn't the cleanest ultimate, but they got so much fight. I like watching this team.
Biggest thing you're looking for early tonight?
What are we going to see from this Colorado O-line? We've seen people rotating in and out. We've seen coordinators switching all season long. Are we going to have an offensive unit that can hold consistently season-low conversion percentage when they played against Seattle last weekend?
No team in UFA history has played more games than the Indianapolis AlleyCats, and no one has scored more goals than Cameron Brock. But their style has changed this year. They're not just hucking and hoping. They are being very patient. No one has thrown nearly as many passes in the league as Indianapolis.
Yeah, and it seems like they're experimenting a little bit with their offense. Sometimes they're playing more vertical. Sometimes they're playing a hex with a lot of touches. And, with guys like Xavier Payne and Cam Brock, I mean, I just want to see more deep balls. I want to see more verticality. But we'll see what they do. They're going to have to try, sort of settle in against this Colorado defense.
They're still working. And there they scored in 22 passes. That's actually a pretty quick possession for what we've seen from them so far this season. Look, there are a bunch of legends on this team. Travis Carpenter and Levi Jacobs and Rick Gross. But Cameron Brock retired, came back. He just can't stay away. He loves the competition, and he works as hard as anybody in the league.
Look, the league's all-time leading goal scorer just turns back the clock in new ways every season. He finds a way to attack soft spaces deep, soft spaces underneath. He knows how to be a leader for this group, lead by example, generate important offensive chunk yardage opportunities, and he's got a knack for the dramatic as well as he reels in this incredible buzzer beater earlier in the season against Chicago.
Yeah, Cam's a guy I've known forever, too. And, I don't know how this guy ages. Like, usually as guys get older, they stop being springy. He was literally jogging off the field during warm-ups, and he jumped over a billboard just to jump. It's like the end of my career was very different than Cam's. He's a special athlete.
We'll see what he does tonight in his first game ever, a Mile High, playing at the Elevation. He's been clutch throughout his season, and this is a really important game tonight. Speaking of a guy who's had the disc in his hands with the game on the line a lot this year, that's Alex Atkins for the Colorado Summit. He's a polarizing presence, but he's undeniably talented, and they need him to play huge tonight.
Yeah, he's a guy, he's so skilled, and he can play great D. He can play well downfield. He's got great hucks from both sides. He can break the mark. He's got great over the tops, and he's virtually impossible to make him feel anything but confident out there. But yeah, it's been tricky with Nethercutt and Quinn Finer not as available as usual, and losing Cody Spicer this year. They've really leaned on Kins. He's showed up. I mean, him and Noah Kuhlman have taken a step forward this year, and you can see he's a playmaker, he's a difference maker, and he's just got a ton of fire and energy.
The question tonight is how will he be able to manage his emotions and his body language? We know he's been involved in critical end-of-game sequences that have gone his way and gone the opponent's way. But the question is, how is he going to channel that energy, and is he going to be able to focus it in the right way for the Summit tonight?
Let's talk about keys to the game, a critical must-win game for both teams. what is most important tonight for the Summit?
Well, for the Summit, offense has been the area, kind of the edge for them, both on the D-line and the O-line. So they need to make high-value passes, not just dawdle with the disc, but really make advantageous, high-leverage throws and protect this house. They've let a lot of games go here in Golden, which is kind of surprising. Generally speaking, they've been very solid at home, but not this year.
And the term that Indy coach Drew Shepard used when talking about the new AlleyCats offense, he said, we're Frankensteining it tonight, with a little of what we've done in the past and a little of what we're still trying to adapt this year. Ian, in terms of keys for the Cats, what's foremost on your mind?
Yeah, this group needs to find its footing defensively early on. They've become a little more resilient, Drew Shepard has said, over the course of this season. But if that defense can elevate its presence early on and find a way to get an early break, which is something that a lot of opponents have done here in Colorado this season, they'll be off to a great start.
Well, for some additional AlleyCats perspective, we sent it down to the sideline and welcome in the fourth member of our broadcast crew, Kelsey Sparks, who spent the season covering Indy. Kelsey, what's foremost on your mind from the Indy perspective as we get going tonight?
Thank you so much, Evan. The AlleyCats are enjoying their stay thus far in Golden, Colorado. Most of the team flew in yesterday morning and have spent some time getting acclimated to the altitude. The team actually did a walkthrough this morning at 9:30, got some more touches on the disc, did some offensive movements, and everybody that I've talked to on the AlleyCats sideline is feeling very confident tonight.
Well, thanks so much, Kelsey. And we'll see exactly what this Indy team is made of. Certainly last year, a Central Division squad, highly touted, came to Colorado. It did not go well for Minnesota. But a different story this year, certainly a different Colorado team as they begin their 11th game of the season here on offense. Little uncertainty about Quinn Finer's status, but he is out there and fields the initial pull, working with Nandamin Fink. And Zeke Thorson getting the early touches. And this is the youngster Tim Elliott. As a practice player for Colorado, elevated. They put him on O-line last week. He's just a teenager, but he's been really solid and steady, and that's what they've liked.
Yeah, and his value per point, I've been trying to really dig into the data a little bit, and his impact on a point is pretty high for as few points as he's played. Really has had a great start for Colorado. Boy, that looked like it was almost a turn.
Nandamin Fink floats it to the end zone, and it's off the hands of Saeed Semrin. Joel Close was right there defensively for the AlleyCats.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Indy wants. They want pressure early on the defensive side of the ball. They get a block right on the goal line, big momentum.
Be interested to see how disciplined Indy's D-line can be here as we see a quick punt from their own goal line.
Yeah, stall count was rising, and that one not give their receiver any of a chance. Jack Gall, the closest AlleyCat to the deep shot, but it did not come back in bounds. So the Summit will pick up in the red zone. And fellas, I got to tell you, watching games from the league all year long, red zone conversion rate is a huge dictator of whether you're going to have a good night or whether you're going to have a rough night. And the Summit have turned it over twice on their opening possession in the red zone.
I mean, I'm not seeing anything that I like from this Colorado offense here in the red zone so far tonight. This group is still just trying to find its footing. And here's the AlleyCats D-line offense working in an upwind situation, and that's just another gift. This is a sloppy opening point tonight.
No question about it. Nice catch by Ben Landry, but he could not connect with Carter Hawkins. Here's Atkins. He's played the third most points in the league this year as Semrin sends Tim Elliott to the end zone for the opening score. Elliott with his fifth goal in his fourth game for the Summit, and Colorado with a sloppy opening hold.
And now that both teams are warmed up, we're going to start the game, everybody. That was a great warm-up, just a demonstration of how to play Ultimate Frisbee.
Yeah, actual start time, 7:08 Mountain, for those of you keeping track at home. Surprised to see Kuhlman so stranded in that pickup situation. You got to expect that Indy might throw a double team there. Drew Shepard talked about how this defense has been trying to steal concepts from other leaders around the Central Division. Tim DeBile, one of the pioneers of setting double teams in unorthodox positions, and that was the perfect opportunity to do it, generated a turnover. would have liked to see some more help in the reset space for the Colorado Summit offense before that throwaway.
First O point for Indy. And a lot of guys who've got a lot of goals and a lot of scores, but there's a turnover through the hands of Rick Gross, who's had an excellent season from a possession-preserving standpoint. First break chance for Colorado. Atkin Arnstein plays it backwards. Matty Jackson, veteran stabilizing presence, working with David Eubank there. Matty not on the field for this opening D point, and Colorado quickly turns it over on their first break chance. Levi Jacobs gets it right back. Double teamed. Indy has been one of the better red zone teams in the league, but not tonight. We got a pass interference call, though, a late whistle, but I think it's the right whistle as Carpenter got hit in the back.
Yeah, you got to protect the receiver there. That's a tough play. Carpenter's not looking, facing away from the play and off the backside. David's into his back there. I don't know, tough, dangerous spot.
Yeah, there's no question that you made contact with the disc first, but he immediately followed through with the body contact onto Carpenter. No way he could have made that play, or it would have been extremely difficult to make that play without the contact.
Carpenter Scuber connects with Cam Brock, number 636 for the all-time goal-scoring king.
Well, if you paid attention to the great package that Luke Johnson and team put together for us in the open, you saw how much this offense likes to dink and dunk and throw a ton of passes, not necessarily focused on big chunk yardage opportunities, but constantly keeping the ball moving so that the defense can never really settle into a particular point of emphasis. And that offensive possession, emblematic of that new offensive approach that Indy's been working so hard to incorporate all season long, wasn't necessarily clicking in the earlier phases of their season. They were off to a really difficult start, but it looks like they're starting to get a little more comfortable. If they can clean up some of those unforced errors, this can be a tough group to keep up with.
And you look at those career goals totals. I mean, it's hard to put into perspective how many times Cameron Brock has been in the end zone. 600 plus. The next closest is under 400.
Yeah, he's 252 clear of Ben Yacht. I don't think Yacht's going to catch him anytime soon.
I hope for Ben's body's sake that he doesn't. Hang it up.
Still playing at a pretty high level if you watched last week against the Shred.
Man, he's so talented. He's another guy that it's hard to pin him down, right? He's probably a better receiver than anything else, but what about his throws? So good.
Yacht's in the state of Colorado right now, where the USA national team is. Up against the double team. That throw never had a chance. This is break chance number 3 for Indy. Nick Hutton in the backfield working with Jack Havey. Downfield for the youngster Wettengel, who lets it rip to the end zone, and it's a score for the AlleyCats.
A little bit of a hip check.
4th goal of the year for Robbie Davenport. And the 23-year-old out of the College of Charleston puts the AlleyCats in front for the first time tonight here in Golden.
And this is interesting. You look at the Colorado O-line getting set to receive here. The coaching staff electing to keep all of the same 7 players, despite that lengthy point, despite Zeke Thorson having to make a run to the opposite end zone, out there on this point. And Zeke didn't have the greatest body language after that. I can't fault him for being upset, but you got 20 deep on your roster. Why not get some of these other guys in here to help you in this tough situation where you have to hold?
Atkins gets it out of the end zone to Feiner, and then wide open deep is Zeke Thorson, waiting for some company. Interesting decision made last week by Mikey Lunn and Tim Kafalas after the Seattle game. And the shot to the end zone, looking for Feiner. What a block. It was deflected by Close and then intercepted by Gudeman. And the AlleyCats standing tall in the red zone D again.
Not one, but 2 blocks on the Team USA standout. This offense needs to find a way to get the ball back here.
Feiner, some contact, will play through it. Another AlleyCats huck, and that one will not find Ben Landry, the intended target. Just to get to the point about Mikey Lund and Tim Kafalis, after the Seattle game, they switched roles. Typically, Mikey has worked with EO or TK has worked with a D. They flip-flop those responsibilities, which is something that you don't usually see in the middle of a season with co-head coaches.
Yeah, you know, I think they're at the point where they are not eliminated, right? But this season is not going the way they had hoped that it would go, and they're also incorporating some new pieces, some of these young guys out of Colorado. And
Coming off the 1-goal win against Madison. Colorado coming off a 10-goal win against Portland, a game in which the Summit had their season low for turnovers and their season high for blocks. The caveat was it was against the Nitro, who have won just once this season.
And now here, coming out of the timeout, the Summit coaching staff electing to put a predominantly D-line personnel out there to march this disc up and convert what would be a dirty hold.
Logan Pruce, former Radical with the disc. It's worth mentioning, Indy could lose this game tonight.
disc for Colorado.
Matty Jackson takes his time and hits Chance Cochran for the equalizer, just under 4 to play in the first.
Matty Jackson, just a timeless talent, man. He's been doing it for years. He does it the right way, always balanced, always getting out low. And, you know, in these shaky points, you lean on your vets, and he's a guy that you can really lean on.
Matty will be happy to get on the board. He said against Portland, his only stat for the chaotic court. did exactly what their coach told them not to do.
Yeah, and hasn't it been that way all year? Like, Colorado's played pretty bad at times, and they're always in the game. I don't really even understand how that's possible, but they just hang in there. And we know where their ceiling is. I mean, these guys were division champs in their inaugural season.
Looking long. Cameron Brock has steps. But the defender, AG, catching up, but not quickly enough. Brock rips it down for the score for the AlleyCats.
And, I mean, you know, it's a simple game. You got Xavier Payne, you got Cam Brock. Like, 1 + 1 = 2. Let's go to the house. I love it. Why not? And AG, you know, AG, the one criticism I would have with him all year is he thinks he's a little bigger than he is. And he'll play behind guys like Cam Brock. And it's like, look, young man, I mean, he's been doing this since 2012. He's going to close out on you.
It's an interesting list of the teams that huck the least in the league. Indy is 20th in the league in completed hucks per game. The teams behind them, Minnesota, New York, DC, and Boston. All teams that are having pretty good success. That sends a message about how you succeed in this league, at least one way to succeed. You don't need to always take the deep shot, but Drew Shepard has also said we're willing to take the deep shot if it's there and it's the right decision. He just doesn't want his players to look to huck, because if you look to huck, he says, you'll always find an option.
Yes, you will. All I can say is I played, you know, college in my first couple club years in the Midwest, and they taught me not to throw hammers, and then I moved to the West Coast, and it was green light city, man. Take your shots.
There's another conversation to have about interdivisional strength. We obviously saw the best team in the West, the Salt Lake Shred, get humbled last week in New York. Seen Colorado struggle more often than not against interdivisional opponents, and that another hanging throw from Kuhlman. Atkins looking for a call, he doesn't get it. The block belongs to Ben Landry, who's been very impactful early for this Indy D-line.
And Atkins actually played that well to be able to get up over his back without fouling. Not a lot of guys that are doing that. That's a big play.
I mean, at a certain point, I think Colorado's coaching staff has to start having some conversations about how strong a fit Kuhlman is for this O-line. He is immensely talented and unbelievably capable, and he still has tons of potential. We've seen him turn in incredible performances, but we've also seen him with careless turnovers in the red zone or things that should be easy completions.
After return, you want that pressure out there.
Exactly.
It's a tough call for the coaches. Elliott shooting for Atkins, and he forced it, and the Summit give it right back. But to your point, Ian, I mean, going into the Portland game, Tim Kafalis challenged Noah Kuhlman and said, just make the right throw. And he went 45 for 45 with no turns. And albeit against a team that's the Nitro, that's at the bottom of the division, but he showed that he could be steady. He led them in completions last week without a turn, and the AlleyCats struggling to get it out of trouble. Atkins, quick flip, Semrin has it, and the Summit are within one once again.
And to counter that point, he already has 3 turns tonight.
Yep.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you got to make that switch. You know, you have to find a way to play higher possession ultimate if you want to be at the top, and he is at the top, and he's just knocking on the door. He's a star, and there's things he can do that human beings aren't normally able to do. I mean, you know, first of all, is just getting catch blocks on an anticipation reset against Indiana. I mean, made that look so easy, got the ball back. But yeah, you know, as a fan, I've been a little disappointed in Noah this year, just not protecting the rock.
Well, he had 13 turns in his first 4 games. He only has 4 throwaways in his last 5 games. That was coming into tonight. It's obviously been a tough opening 15 minutes, not just for Noah, but for many of his teammates as well. And yet they're within 1. Their playoff lives are still very much, the heart is beating. The roadmap for the Summit, if the Spiders, Growlers, and Summit can all finish the season 6-6, well, then Colorado's got a pretty good chance of winning that tiebreaker. Colorado needs to win its last 2 games. They need the Growlers to win their last 2 games. And just as importantly, they need the Spiders to lose 2 of their last 3, and it looks like Oakland is going to roll tonight at home against Portland. But Oakland a couple weeks from now has to go back to Southern California, where they have historically struggled mightily, including losing a pair last week against the Growlers and the Aviators. Cameron Brock working for Indy, and that's a really nice possession. A slight bobble from Xavier Payne, but he hangs on, and Indy leads 6-4.
Yeah, nice job by Indiana, just being patient, taking what the defense gives you. And, you know, even when Xavier made the cut-up line, had it in power position, you know, makes the right decision. Here's the around, a high percentage, you know, shot that didn't float. And Xavier, you know, maybe practice that a little bit, smooth that out a little bit.
That's a really nice possession.
I mean, I love Kelsey taking us inside the AlleyCats prep. They had a walkthrough. They started getting acclimated to throwing at elevation. Sure, there were a couple drops early on, but I haven't seen any egregious overthrows or miscalibration in the wind, and I think that's a sign of a team that's really focused and prepared coming into this game.
What does it say to you guys that Colorado, whoa, my goodness, oh, nearly a Callahan. It's a great layout block on the goal line. I believe Tanner Graham gets his second of the half, and the quick pickup, and my goodness, can you believe that? Through the hands of Jack Havey in the end zone.
And welcome to Saturday of Great Lakes Regionals. We are live. That was tough. That was tough to watch.
That's well said, Chuck.
That's how I remembered it anyway.
I was getting ready to say that Indy leads the league with 410 completions per game. Colorado is second with about 299 completions per game. What does that say to you guys?
That's just a different game. I think they're not playing the same sport at that point.
Yeah, and the question is, how high value are those completions? Are you taking resets that aren't penetrating or asking questions of the opposing defense? There's something to be said for possession, but you still also have to find a way to push the envelope and make the defense uncomfortable.
Kuhlman with a good find there, connecting with Elliott, who is wide open.
I wonder if a guy like Nethercutt could talk to Kuhlman. You know, a couple years ago, Nethercutt's got the green light forever, but, you know, he reined it in and really played higher possession. Took high percentage hucks, broke the mark, you know, hit the over the tops, but really did not turn the disc over. And I have no idea how you can do that at his level, just change the way you play. But you know, you see some of these throws, like that throw at the end of the game, or at the end of the point right here. You want him to throw, you want him to see the field and attack. And but mentally, sometimes the decision making is not where it needs to be.
You've talked so much through your broadcasting career about the mental game. And look, UFA is a different beast. You know, every time you have a mistake, that throwaway is appearing on your stats forever, and that can mess with your mind.
Yeah, defense sometimes is pressure over time, and it wears on you, and eventually you make a mental error.
No question, Indy's offense has been the crisper of the two units so far tonight.
Yeah, they've got a bigger belief muscle, I know.
This is Rick Gross coming underneath. He's put up some big numbers throughout his career. Travis Carpenter sending this one to the end zone, and it's ripped down by Lucas Conieris, the 24-year-old from Bloomington, coming off his best game of the year and playing big for Indy.
I mean, Carpenter knew at the moment of release, I don't know if I put enough on that one. Just praying that this high release kind of inside out thing makes it all the way to the end zone. And you saw his body language there. Check out, he's on his knees, he's looking down. I can't believe that worked out.
I mean, that guy probably rehabbed a house this week in Indiana, and now he's out here playing at age whatever. I mean, this guy's a vet.
He's also got a newborn daughter at home.
Yeah, right. Other than that, he doesn't have a lot happening in his life.
Travis became a dad earlier this year, right before their buzzer-beating win against Chicago.
And Conieris made him look good. I think he's a big difference maker for Indiana this year.
Another poor handling of the pull received by Colorado. They start 100 yards from the goal they're attacking. Elliott in his own end zone to Thoresen. And it's amazing how different this Summit offense is compared to kind of what we saw last year, what we expected coming into this year. You know, Feiner injured for much of the season, and they've missed him for sure. That's beautiful vision, excellent touch, and a perfect put for Nandam Fink.
I mean, that's more like it on that possession. Chuck, I didn't mean to step over you there.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, Quinn Feiner, like one of the highest volume and percentage huckers in the whole league. You wouldn't think about it. You think of him as an athlete and the guy who's running away from you, getting layout blocks, closing out. But he sees space well. He throws with the right shape. There's no panic. He's always balanced. And just a beautiful shot here to Nandam Fink. Wide open. And that was kind of a thrower-initiated goal, if you ask me.
Ian, can you put into words what Quinn Feiner means to this O-line?
I think that last O point is emblematic of what he means, because he can make the difficult throw in his own end zone that preserves possession. He can push the pace and attack in the midfield space, and then he can fire the cross-field finishing shot. You just saw multiple different phases and elements of his toolkit on display, and he's doing it with such a steady presence.
Xavier Payne sending Levi Jacobs. Tremendous effort, but it's incomplete.
You know, I talked to Xavier Payne before the game about the disc and the altitude, and he said, you know, the only thing that can be difficult is if you throw the outside in and it holds its edge, it just drops really quickly. And you saw that there. If it flattens out, it tends to just go and go and go. But that one came down awfully fast.
Final timeout of the first half taken by Colorado as Matty Jackson saw the double team and said no thank you.
So here you see the outside, and it holds that edge the whole way, and it just kind of drops down a little quicker than you're expecting. I think in Indiana, that's a clap-catch goal.
Of course, Indy plays most of its home games indoors, the only team in the league that you can say that about.
That is so different.
Their season low for turnovers was 7.
Hey, Quinn, we're home. Hey, you're in the middle. I'm going to leave Quinn there on the step out. Okay, Quinn, you're down. Score on 2. 1, 2, score.
AlleyCats already with 10 turns tonight. There's been one game in the UFA this year where both teams had single-digit turnovers. It was that Chicago at Indy game that Cam Brock won at the buzzer, where Indy completed 480 passes, by far the most of any team in a game this year.
Should be a mercy rule at some point, right? If you complete a certain number of passes, the game's just over.
That creates some really weird incentives.
Feiner back in there out of the timeout. And there's Quinn's first big mistake of the night, looking for Agee.
Yeah, a couple bad throws from Quinn today.
And into the end zone goes Will Wettengel, the youngster who won't turn 20 until September, making plays here in the mountains.
I mean, he was such a presence in Indy's comeback victory against Madison last week, and it's just more of the same so far here tonight. Involved in a little physicality in the first quarter, but here in the second quarter, just attacking after the turnover, using every inch of that lanky frame to reel in that one.
It kind of looks like what's happening in the NBA these days, right? Like very thin, lean, athletic, fast runners who can jump. You know, it's a different body type. I feel like when I was playing, there was a couple of these guys. There was like a Joel Wooten in Atlanta who was very big and long, or like Andrew Lugsden out of Vancouver. But generally, there was bigger guys, stockier bigs, and these guys are so wiry.
I think we have Kelsey down on the sideline. Kelsey, curious to check in with you, just get your thoughts on what we've seen so far. Are you surprised that Indy is really controlling this game right now?
You know, nobody in Indianapolis is surprised, and that's something that the AlleyCats were really wanting to make a point to do today. So many people in the league didn't give the AlleyCats a chance to come away with the win here. So the energy that they're bringing, I mean, you can tell from the stream. And, hey, the offense has been such a storyline for Indy today, but it's been all defense. 9 blocks thus far in the game, 3 of which were goal-saving blocks. We had Seth Gudeman, Tanner Graham, and Joel Close saving the goals. So lots of energy on the D-line, and the AlleyCats are feeling good.
Yeah, Seth Gudeman's got 3 blocks already in the game, along with 1 goal. And a lot of different guys are making names for themselves here in the Super Series tonight. Kelsey, you're absolutely right. Colorado was thinking that this might be like last year's Minnesota game. This first half has certainly convinced them that it is going to be a tough 4-quarter fight tonight.
Yeah, nice job by Indiana. As the disc reverses, they're protecting those lanes, staying on their men. Gritty defensive points so far.
Atkins keeping it moving. Finer with a touch. Atkins with a rising stall count. Gets Kuhlman. Difficult throw. Well done. Finer with a score. We're getting the whole Noah Kuhlman experience here tonight, fellas.
That's right.
I mean, the kid doesn't lack confidence, and I think that's a good thing because
or talent for that matter.
Oh yeah, no, and I hope that was clear from my comment earlier on. I'm a huge believer in him, and I absolutely love watching him play. He does electric and creative stuff every time he steps out onto the field, and this is just another instance of, hey, there are maybe only 3 square yards where I can put that disc where the defender can't play defense on it and it won't land out of bounds, and he happened to hit it right in the spot. Like, I'm going back to playing Madden 2004 where you're doing the training with the quarterback and you got to hit the out route through the goal scorer post.
Yeah, that was a good golf shot there, no doubt.
Closing in on 3 minutes to play in this first half. A tough catch made there by Nick Betch. Brock a touch, quickly dishes back for Gross. Now Gudeman. AlleyCats have 5 guys that basically play O every point, and then they rotate 2 and 2. You'll see Gudeman crossing over a bunch. You'll see Xavier Payne mixing the O and D to give the D-line a little bit more pop. Cameron Brock shooting the huck long. Rick Gross versus Sam Goldstein, and he's just barely out the back.
Yeah, I think Hank Carey got that call right. You saw Gross trying to drag his toe, and I think he did drag his toe. The problem was that it was on the white out-of-bounds portion of the turf once he came back down.
And I think that's the second throw that would have been a goal in Indianapolis.
Well, this is just a floater, but Sandy Brown takes it away from his teammate. Alex Tatum creating some contact. Now it's Cochran. Just for the most part, Colorado's just not smooth. They're not in sync.
They're a collection of individuals.
And
they're
yet,
not an elite team right now.
And yet, they are tied. Count it, plus the foul, as Agee absorbs the contact and scores anyway.
It just seems crazy to me that with as poorly as Colorado is playing, we still have a tie game right now. I don't know if I'm glossing over some of the silly turnovers that Indianapolis is making, and they're not present in my mind, but it just feels like Indianapolis is still controlling and has an advantage here.
Yeah, I talked to Mike DeNardis, and he drew the comparison to Carolina last year. They had a lot of fluctuation in their roster throughout the season, and that's what Colorado has this year. And I just think it's really, really hard to make up for that. When you have steady lines, when you have guys that are playing together consistently all year, handler cores that are playing together consistently all year, it just really makes a difference. You know, you can have all the talent in the world, but if the chemistry's not dialed, it really doesn't matter.
That, by the way, was the first break of the night for the Summit. They're 1 for 3 on break chances. Indy is 2 for 10. Buzzer beater at the end of the first. Gonna look back on that, I think, as a really pivotal play in this game. Payne letting it rip again. It's a sky ball. Atkins can't come up with it because Wettengel controlling the skies here in Indy.
Yeah, and Wettengill looks taller every single time he makes a play. I mean, the guy is just, it's like Wembanyama out there just going up over the crowd. Didn't even really panic. Went up in a nice, smooth three-step walk-up and just right over the top. I got that.
It wasn't Atkins, it was Marshall with Rodriguez there as well. Wettengill, 19 years old. You said, Ian, he played great last week in the Madison comeback. He's shown up again tonight.
And these are the kind of plays that he's out there for. I don't know that anybody intends to throw a sky ball, maybe sometimes at an end of quarter situation, but just happened to work out in that sequence when you've got that much size in the area. I mean, look at the job he did to keep Kai Marshall on the back of his left shoulder there.
Yeah, that's Kai Marshall. That guy's a monster in the air and has been. A nice play.
Wettengill was a state champion in Ohio playing Ultimate. He was the Conference Player of the Year for his high school soccer team.
Well, all he needs to do is join Cam Brock in his jumping protocols, and he's going to be an absolute superstar in this league.
How many goals do you think Wettengill is going to finish his career with? About 600?
Oh, I don't know about that. Big bodies don't age so well, my man.
Final 30 seconds here this first half. Colorado scored at the buzzer at the end of the opening quarter. This is the Summit's youngster, Elliott, connecting with another young guy, Thorson, throwing it up the line. Beautiful anticipation. The fourth block of the half for Gudeman. Dangerous reset. Hutton make it the deep shot. This is Atkins and Davenport, and that was a heck of a throw. In fact, it was too far for Nick Hutton as the first half comes to a close. The AlleyCats lead the Summit by 1 after 24 wild minutes of Frisbee here tonight.
I was looking at the back of that AlleyCats jersey. It says, "Be close," and that should be the motto for the Summit. They're just always close somehow. I can't tell you how. They're really not playing a particularly good game, but here we are, 1 point game into the half.
Well, the AlleyCats going just 2 for 11 on break chances. That's why the Summit are hanging around.
Who wants it less? That's the question we're trying to answer here tonight. Which O-line wants it less?
Indy's O-line 7 for 10. It's not terrible. We're joined now by the head coach of the AlleyCats, Drew Shepard. Drew, we've called it a chaotic couple of quarters, but your team has a lead. What have you liked about the first half, and what will your message to your team be?
A lot to like. We came out at the start of this game like we did in the second half of Madison, which is what we needed. Defensively, we're good. We're right on their heels. What's been tough is, at least by my count, our starting O-line, there's been 0 takeaways, I think, from the Summit D-line, and at least 5 giveaways. And I think they're all spread. Everybody's taking one turn, just trying to play hero ball. If we do the work with our legs, right, then I think we cruise.
Coach, what do you think about Xavier Payne in this first half? Took a couple shots, mostly completed, but, how do you feel you've been using him so far in the first half?
So we've got a checklist, qualities of a good huck, right? And not every huck has to be a perfect, 10 out of 10. The one to Cam that we came down with, there were enough good things about it that it survived, but it wasn't a great look, and a lot of our other deep shots so far have not been great either. So I think the message to us is, one, like, this is our field, right, not Colorado's, and we got to have that kind of attitude. We got to keep slinging confidently, but we got to do it way smarter. We're hunting for hucks rather than letting the hucks present themselves to us, and that's the biggest problem.
Coach, I know you were keying in on your offense's kind of giveaways in your earlier comments, but your D-line is also just 2 of 10. How much of that is, hey, we're just looking for hucks, and how much of that is other stuff that you need to clean up?
Yeah, I'd love to see a stopwatch, how many minutes Atkins and crew have been on the field. We're happy to grind them because, listen, that's a deposit we put down in the first half that we're going to make hay on in the second half.
Coach, we'll let you look for interest in the locker room and talk with your team. Thanks so much for joining us. Good luck. Drew Shepard. Got a lot of smart things to say. As an assistant under Eric Leonard back in the mid-2010s. And this AlleyCats team continues to grind, looking for a marquee win tonight here in the Mountain Sky. Wettengill and the AlleyCats lead by 1 at the half.
We host live music every Thursday night, an adjacent dog park and pump track, and so much more. With an insatiable curiosity to explore hops, barley, water, and yeast, the Unbound Journey exists for those who wander.
Moving, that's the method, and I'm moving on to rep it. The suburbs, how I left it, laying beats down on the stretchers. Riling up the juice, and I'm stirring up a ruckus. Stay hurting instrumentals, putting rappers on the crutches. Rebels of the ages, get your own places. Cook yourself something, stop living in the basement. I'm 5 stars, why I waste your time to rate it? Chuck the hater raid, bitch, I'm always hydrated.
I made up and get to this guy, cause so sorry, little mama, gotta do my thing. I hell up and get back, cause I live in better, make each other do my own thing. I made up and get to this guy, cause so sorry, little mama, gotta do my thing.
Hopefully I can catch it this spot. Oh man. It's not funny, I'm serious.
At all Philong pre-owned locations, get the best selection and best deals always. 1,000 used vehicles, including over 500 certified pre-owned. Prices from $10,995. Payments from $239 per month. 0 down. And all pre-owned are thoroughly inspected and include warranties up to 7 years. Plus, get a cash offer whether you trade it or not. 1,000 pre-owned vehicles, always the best deals. Experience Philong Pre-Owned and drive Colorado.
We are out here in Golden, Colorado, the home of the Colorado Summit, and we are back this year with another partnership between the Colorado Summit and On Tap Credit Union.
Tabor sending fiber to the end zone. They don't need to burn one.
Today, what we're doing is a financial education and coaching presentation for the Colorado Summit players. They do such an amazing job of creating community around here. It's a real pleasure to show up at all their games, support, and just create that sense of community around all of this.
We're at halftime here at Marv Kay Stadium. The AlleyCats, the Central Division, leading the West's Colorado Summit 9-8. Indy has more blocks in the first half than Colorado has goals, which is not great for these hometown fans here in Golden. And yet, Chuck, it's a 1-goal game. The Summit hanging around.
Yeah, somehow just staying relevant. I mean, they definitely don't quit on themselves. But, yeah, I mean, just both teams, if you're a coach of either of these teams and you're seeing red zone conversion rates hovering around 50%, I mean, that's just not going to get it done. If these teams have aspirations to head to championship weekend this year or next year, that just has to go up.
Kelsey made the point that no one in Indy is surprised, but you don't live in Indy. What have you thought of what the AlleyCats have done tonight?
Well, I mean, they're scrappy, right? Like, they have a lot of belief in themselves, and I think, their belief muscle is just bigger than Colorado's at this point. They're out here to win. They think they can win every point, and it shows. And that goes a long way, in these games. It's the dog days of summer out here. You're at altitude, but you're going to win, and you do.
When the schedule came out, we saw 4 interdivisional games on Colorado's schedule. They had Atlanta and Indy at home. They had to go to Madison and Minnesota. They're 24 minutes away from going 0-4 in those interdivisional games if they can't win the second half by 2.
Not an outcome I think any of us would have predicted, and this group just needs to find a way to play together as a team.
Do you think that means that, like, the West isn't very good, or what does that mean? Like, why would Colorado go 0-4?
I'll say this, there's a lot of reasons for that, but just to throw a fact out there, in their franchise's history, the Summit are 23-8 against the West. They're 1-5 against the other divisions. That includes the Chicago loss at championship weekend. The one win was the Minnesota game last year, but it's been a tough year from an interdivisional perspective for Colorado.
Yeah, it's kind of a head scratcher, I think. And the thing that I've never been able to figure out this year about Colorado is how could they be divisional champs 2 years ago and this year be kind of middle of the pack irrelevant and losing interdivisional games? I mean, these aren't easy games, but they're all winnable games.
We're going to talk to Mikey Lunn here momentarily, one of the co-head coaches of this Colorado squad. Mikey's got the headset on. Mikey, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys.
Thanks for joining us. Obviously not a pretty first half, particularly for your O-line, and yet you're within one. How you feeling?
Good. You know, I feel like these Central teams especially are so good at you know, changing angles and playing the UFA style, so it's been a challenge for our O-line for sure.
Mikey, what do you think you can do or say to try and get this offense to be a little more disciplined or patient when it comes to the red zone? We've seen a couple of red zone situations that have resulted in turnovers for you guys that you might not have wanted.
Totally. Yeah, partially it's a few choices early on, and then honestly some of their doubles and the way they sag off is a little bit tricky. I think we just got to be certain. There's nothing really specific to say. You just got to be certain about your decision and be definitive.
Coach, what do you think about, like, what does Noah Kuhlman need to do to take a step forward? I feel like he's such a star. He's got so many skills and talents, but sometimes, you know, the possession or whatever it is, like the mental focus, what does he have to do to take the next step?
You know, take a deep breath. It's simple. You know, like you said, he's maybe the most talented player on the field, so, you know, just trust himself, take a breath.
All right, Mikey, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Best of luck in the second half.
Thanks, guys.
Interesting story. Mikey Lunn and Drew Shepard, the two coaches that we just chatted with, both work in the IT field. And the company that Mikey works for is a client of the consultancy that Drew works for. And they realized this last year when Drew was assigned to work for 1 week with Mikey and his team. Just, wait, I know you. Like one of those situations in the real world. How strange and crazy is that?
Well, and I wonder how different the tone and language became as soon as they realized they were talking to an Ultimate player. Because I remember I was actually in a job interview, and then the guy asked me, do you know a guy named Webster McBride? And I said, yeah, I was guarding him yesterday in tryouts. And he's like, yeah, I played with him at Dartmouth. And then our interview completely pivoted to another direction. It's amazing when you meet one of the tribe members.
Second half underway, and another miserable job fielding the pole. And just an awkward-looking start to the possession for the Summit, and yet they've got the disc with a chance to tie, and Syed Semrin has steps. The huck goes up. Semrin pulls it down with the footsteps of Joel Close nearby. Close will have another chance, but Logan Pruce pulls down the score for the Summit. 9-all. Living dangerously here in Golden.
Yeah, Logan Pruce, no stranger to skying the pack of AlleyCats. This guy's made his living in the Midwest. And yeah, nice job closing that out by Semrin. Beautiful shot. Yeah, I don't know how they did it, but they somehow got it down the field and scored the goal. And here you can see Logan Pruce coming in, getting up high, and finishing the deed. So pretty leading shot here. And you can see how the disc just holds its shape. This new disc, the Professional Ultimate Frisbee, it really flattens out and just stays flat. And it almost makes, you know, some really, really high-skilled throwers, it kind of removes a little bit of their bag, if you ask me. I mean, you used to have to do a lot of work to get a nice flight path. Now I don't think you have to do quite as much. It just stays flat.
Colorado Summit were just 6 for 12 in the red zone in the first half. 1 for 1 to start the second half. Indy on offense, 2 for 6 on their hucks. They've also had 3 red zone turns. Bobbled and hung on to by Jacobs. David Yu marking Brock. Back for Carpenter. Travis was a teenager when he started, known as the Kid, as the huck goes up. Nick Batch, full extension, brings it in for the AlleyCats.
That was a really pretty throw from Levi, too. Just stepped out, IO throw at altitude, and just sets it up there for Betch to close out on. That was a choice look.
We've seen this a couple times tonight, right? This dink and dunk, small space offense kind of sucks the defense in, and then all of a sudden there's one isolated deep cut with no other help defenders in the area. We saw Cam Brock take advantage of this earlier, and here it's Betch following the flight path on the beautiful release there from Jacobs, and looking like the UFA logo on that grab there.
Yeah, had the right shape, and you can see it wasn't outside in. I think when it really drops off the shelf is when you put it outside in. When you do something else, it flattens out and floats for you.
28-year-old Nick Betch scored 15 goals in 11 games last year, playing for the Detroit Mechanix, as Atkins sends a missile. Kuhlman accelerates 30 yards away from the closest defender as he brings in the Summit score.
Second point in a row that Logan Pruce has been out there with the offensive group to help get things started, field the pull center, provide another distribution option. But once they got through to that mid-level, Chuck, you love seeing Atkins at that tier and stage of the offense.
Oh man, I just think he should be a mid all day. He's so dangerous that you have to give him the under, and then when he gets it, this happens. I mean, it's just a nightmare. You think Kuhlman's not going to get open when Atkins comes under? That's a done deal.
Atkins entered the night tied for the 5th most completed hucks in the league. And I agree with you wholeheartedly, Chuck. When he's the center handler, he doesn't get to do his damage downfield and use his throws in rhythm, in the flow of the offense.
I mean, there's plenty of years ahead where you're going to be the center hander, you know. Like, the guy's 25. Get your butt downfield, make a difference, terrify the defense, and score some goals.
Betch connecting with Gross. Here's Brock. Lefties it for Rick Gross. Rick, one of 3 veteran AlleyCats who, entering this season, thinks it's going to be the end. And great defense in the end zone. Kai Marshall finding his form against Cameron Brock.
Yeah, he's taken a step up in the second half of the season. And the double team on the goal line, Matty Jackson in some trouble here.
Towering hammer into the end zone.
And
Tatum drilled by Carpenter.
Great grab by Tatum, but also a nice job selling that contact afterwards, too.
And then Tatum slithers the throw through for Shnushka. Best beard in the league, Chuck?
Oh, man, it's pretty tough. Good luck knocking that guy out. Where's his chin?
Nowhere to be seen. Here's Thorson. Looks like Pruce moving on to O and Thorson moving on to D. And Zeke, the college defensive player of the year this year for Mama Bird. Big time playmaker, getting blocks. Said the same thing about Tatum during his college days. That's a difficult hammer, but it finds Shnushka a yard shy of the goal line. Shnushka, stall count rising, he finds the open man. Rodrigo Gold Rodriguez with his first goal of the season. And the Summit take their first lead since the score was 1-0.
I asked Rodrigo, you know, what's your style of play? When I first met him, I said, what's your style of play out there? And he just said, I just go chase the disc. I'm just running around chasing the disc. I love that. I love that energy, and I love what he's doing out there. He loves his team, brings the energy every week, and good to see him on the field in the end zone.
Situation we haven't seen often tonight. How do Drew Shepard and company handle their personnel when their O-line has gotten broken?
First time the AlleyCats have played from behind since the opening minutes. Let's check in with Kelsey Sparks down on the sideline. Kelsey?
Thanks, Evan. I just had a conversation with Alex Atkins down here on the Colorado Summit sideline. He said that at halftime the coaches told them, and I quote, "You guys are really bad. You've got to be better." And he said the team responded incredibly well. You can see that so far this half.
Alex, certainly not a guy to mince words. That sounds like something Atkins would say.
Yeah, his synopsis of like 10,000 words is like, you're really bad, play better.
Smooth offense this possession so far. Hawkins, one of those tweener guys that flexes back and forth to O&D with Xavier Payne. Tough layout snag there. Payne looking downfield. Brown with a little hedging double.
Payne wanted the hammer to Wettengill for about a second and a half, but thought better of it.
I was rooting for him there.
How about the hammer here? Looking for Payne.
After all of that patience, that's the choice.
And that's the lesson, kids. If the hammer is wanted, if the disc wants to have a hammer thrown, you need to throw it. Otherwise, well.
So sometimes it's not always the right choice.
I mean, the disc has an energy, you know. It's just like that Kevin Nealon soliloquy in Happy Gilmore. It has an energy. You have to honor the energy.
See if Colorado can work this 80 yards for another break. Tatum with a leaping snag. Rips the forehand. Wettengel, the defender, and he got a piece of it. AG comes up empty for Colorado.
That is a tough block. I mean, that was a beautiful throw. That's one of Tatum's best shots. And AG had steps and about the longest arms I've ever seen, and it just didn't matter. And by the way, that was clean. That's the hardest part. A lot of guys can get in there and disrupt that play, but usually it's a foul. Wettengel comes over the top clean.
Jeremiah Branson unmarked. Neither team's red zone efficiency has been top-notch tonight. For the season, Indy 5th in the league. They have a second chance this trip. Branson can't get it.
That might be the first elevation overthrow that you can really blame Indianapolis in the elevation for.
Yeah, they might be getting tired, too. Most teams here in the second half start to fade a little.
Even on a throw that short?
Absolutely.
Well, I just think two things. One is, like, you're starting to get tired, and it just looked like a lazy throw a little bit, like he sort of threw it standing straight up. But
yeah,
second is, like, your brain's not getting enough oxygen, all right? I don't want to get into a science lesson, but you can't think without oxygen.
Gentlemen, take us through the story of the point.
Well, Xavier Payne should have thrown the hammer and paid for it. Deep shot, D'd up cleanly by Wettengel, who must be the MVP of this game at this point. And here's the overthrow down the line, just kind of a sloppy point. Welcome to the Great Lakes.
You played at Great Lakes Regionals, right?
Oh yeah, I helped build this culture of high turnover, poor decision making, and mild obesity on the field. Sorry, that's about me. That's not about Indy. I don't want to get any phone calls. I love you guys.
Do people still make phone calls these days?
That's true. Good point.
Second break chance of the point for the Summit. They've got 2 breaks in the game. After the timeout, the O-line is out there. Logan Pruce out there on this offense with Minfink, Feiner, Kuhlman, Elliott, Semrin, and Atkins. Quinn, a little shimmy on Gudeman. One thing Tim Kafala told his offense last week, he wants them to use the depth. Feiner sees the deep man. Pruce to the end zone again.
Just high percentage hucks all day. That's what Quinn Feiner does. I don't understand what it is about this guy, but he sees those angles. You can see he sees space well. He throws to space well. And that was, I mean, there's no question about that. That was in stride, clap catch, nice I.O. backhand. Pretty stuff.
How about the night Bruce is having, too?
Great adjustment at halftime to put him on O.
Yeah, he's breaking out. I mean, you knew he was good. I've been watching all year. I've been watching this team all year, and you're just like, look, Bruce can be a difference maker out there, and it's just a question of, like, how can we integrate him? Where exactly does he fit? And the O-line, I think, is the hardest place to get in there. You know, if you're just a layout block guy like Lucas Ambrose, send him to Seattle, he's leading the league. Send him to L.A., he's leading the league. Doesn't matter. But, you know, if you're an offensive skill guy, it's just a process.
Now the AlleyCats are on the ropes a little bit. First time they've trailed by 2 here tonight. Summit largest deficit was 2. Remember, Indy had the disc trying to make it a 3-goal game at the end of the first, turned it with about 5 seconds to go, and Kuhlman connected with Goldstein at the buzzer, brought the Summit within 1.
This Indy offense back to that quick disc movement. Nobody's holding the disc for more than 2 or 3 seconds of the stall count. Almost like they're dribbling out there.
Shout out to Disc Hoops, Frank Huguenard's brainchild.
They've said they Frankenstein this offense. Travis Carpenter beats Schnuska for the easy clap catch. Cats within one.
I mean, I'm an older guy, I get it, but like Schnuska's got to run that out. Am I right? Like Travis is tired. He's not moving like he was 8-10 years ago. I just feel like Schnuska needs to put some pressure on this. Pretty good throw though.
But once again, amidst all the Plinko, dish, small space activity, this offense finds a way to just isolate one particular receiver going deep in a way that doesn't allow for any other help defenders to be in that area. And yes, you would have loved to see Schnuska apply a little more pressure, but you got to give them credit for, out of that morass, developing that high percentage look for themselves.
It's true, they kind of lull you to sleep a little bit too. Like you just expect lateral movement, lateral movement, lateral movement, and then they're so disciplined about keeping everybody short. No poach off the backside. One guy ISO'd going deep. And they've got the throwers who can make those throws. Levi, Xavier.
That was a massive, massive crossfield scooper.
Tough catch made by Elliott right in front of the Colorado bench.
Yeah, I'm no coach, but that was cool.
Semren's reset blocked by Hutton.
That's the law of conservation of greatness, isn't it? That scooper was too good.
155th career block for Nick Hutton. He's 8th in UFA history. Chance to tie it here for Indianapolis. 12 all here in Golden. Indy punches back. Ben Close brings in the goal.
You know, and you think about what is an alley cat. Have you ever been in an alley in a big city and run into a cat? Like, they are tough, and you better just stay away from them. They are scrappy. They don't quit. You can see here, Tim Elliott saves the disc. Semren gives it right back. Shot to the end zone, and Indy's not going anywhere.
No hesitation from Thatcher after his hammer did not work out earlier.
No shame in his
there
game.
With Close.
That's right.
And how about Hutton? Another one of those guys that's planning to step away from professional ultimate at the end of this season. Long-time AlleyCat defensive star. Playing his 110th career game tonight.
You think O players or D players are going to be better coaches?
Oh my goodness.
What a pull. Not to ignore your question, Chuck, but let's just admire the placement of that pull.
That was what we all dream about.
Look, I think Ultimate has to continue to evolve its coaching staffs, that it is a requirement that you have an O coordinator and a D coordinator.
Contact away from the disc. It's going against Indy. Call made from the sideline.
Carlo DePena there.
I really don't know if an O-line or a D-line player, if they're elite, would be a better coach. I'd be curious to hear what anybody out there thinks about that. Like on Twitter, at me. Chucktown now. It seems like O people understand the game maybe a little better, and the percentages have to be so much higher on O. But maybe I'm wrong.
Well, the interesting thing is, if you're scouting and you're coaching the offense, you're mostly watching the other team's defense, and vice versa. So the reality is you need to be attuned to both. Kuhlman shoots it. Atkins accelerates and celebrates.
Yeah, Joy's one of the hallmarks of this Colorado Summit's team's success over the years. And it's good to see them catching goals and celebrating, and good to see a smile on Atkins' face.
He might have busted the disc on that kick spike afterwards, though.
Was that on the heel?
I think so.
Oh, interesting. So here he is closing out, letting them know a little bit, and here comes the spike. Let's see what happens here. This is a professional ultimate Frisbee compromised by the cleats of Alex.
I mean, he's obviously been in the spotlight all season long, from literally the opening night of the season, Ian, when he was in the booth with you in Salt Lake.
Yep.
And, you know, then a week later he makes his season debut. The offense feels a little different without Quinn Finer, missing some other pieces. Saeed Semren shifting over to O, Noah Kuhlman shifting over. And yet Atkins continues to be the heartbeat of this team.
I mean, look at the difference in the effort and the energy that Indy just put into fielding that pull. There were 2 or 3 guys over there in the vicinity, and Travis Carpenter did kind of like a half barrel roll, half layout to stop the roll and prevent that disc from rolling all the way to the back of the end zone.
Goodeman, too much sizzle on that huck, looking for Cam Brock.
I don't know if that was a respect for AG thing or if it was just execution error, but I really liked the offense there. Levi Jacobs with some big cuts.
It's like Chance Cochran took an injury, walked to the Indy sideline because that's where it was closest, which is not something you normally see.
Yeah, I hope he's all right. On his knees before the throw, so maybe this comes back.
That's a great call, Chuck. I'm picking up some field mic stuff saying prior to the throw.
Okay.
Well, that saves Goodeman, the throwaway.
And this whole flow that happened and produced that beautiful look started with Levi Jacobs going downfield, hard cuts, gets the disc on an under to Travis Carpenter, reverses the field in a wide open streaking cutter. Just beautiful motion out of him. And he's a guy, I mean, Levi Jacobs is an institution.
Under Drew Shepard, he's become more of a possession preserver. Drew says after he became coach, he had a frank conversation with Levi and said, look, this whole gunslinger mentality that you got, it's fun, but I need you to be more careful. There's some quick reflexes, maintaining possession.
If that's not possession, I don't know what is, man. That should have been a turnover.
Drew said before the 2023 season they had a, oh my goodness.
I mean, that's got to be a card as well.
That's no good, yeah.
David Yu runs through Seth Goodeman.
And unsportsmanlike, I should say.
Yeah, I think that's the right call.
No signal yet from either of the officials, but Hank Carey and Jonathan Monforti will converse. Monforti still has energy after thrashing me in pickleball this morning.
I wish I could say I got the best of Monforti on the field, but it's just not true. That guy can play.
Indy's marched off the 20. We still haven't seen a clear signal, but I imagine that is coming right here.
There it was right there.
So it's Connie Harris. Cam Brock doing a little dance in the end zone. Don't quit your day job, Cam. And with Cam serving as the decoy, Levi Jacobs completely unguarded in the back corner of the end zone. Connie Harris with the assist, and under a minute to play in the third, 13 all. Interesting finish brewing here this evening.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch all these close games. Levi Jacobs saves possession there. You can see the big collision there. Just a dangerous, dangerous play by David. And here's the over the top, nice decoy.
He makes that throw look easy, but that's not an easy throw against that double team pressure.
No, it was beautiful. Luckily, he had a fair amount of space to work with. But how far away do you think we are from fines in the UFA? Not that there should be like a fine on that last play, but I was just thinking, like, how many years away are we before players are with having agents, getting fines, negotiating contracts? I can't wait.
It's an interesting question. I mean, certainly we've seen players suspended for dirty acts on the field. But thankfully, the spirit of the game has continued to permeate this sport, even at the professional level. More often than not, for sure. Important end of quarter situation.
Ooh. Yeah, that could be another one.
Indy will receive to start the fourth. Colorado looking to retake the lead after the 10-yard foul. Nanda back for Noah. And Fink breaks the mark. Atkins. And Elliott didn't even realize he was in. 14-13 Summit with 14 seconds left in the third.
You know, if you just saw a silhouette of Atkins here, you would know exactly who this is. No one looks like this dude on the field. He's hilarious.
Well said. I almost started to write down Kuhlman for the goal. Elliott gets the goal.
Well, as you alluded to before that last point started, we have a potentially momentous swing coming up here. Can Colorado defend this, or can Indy get a critical end of quarter hold?
As you'd expect, Wettengel is out there, all 6.5 feet of him. Slow start to the possession, though, for Indy. Jacobs and Gross. Back to Jacobs with 3. Levi rips it to the end zone. Brock, Wettengel, Gudeman, all there, but instead Kai Marshall says this disc is mine.
Kai Marshall putting his stamp on this season a little bit. You know, I really think he's kind of coming into his own on this Colorado team. Watch him just get in front, use his size, and be that Kai Marshall star that we've come to love over the years.
Big play to close out the third.
First few years of college, I threw every single day. Of course you want to be a champion. Of course you want to be working towards winning titles.
Be happy, but never satisfied.
Better than ever.
Well, beautiful night, sun setting here in Golden, Colorado. Colorado Summit outscored the Indianapolis AlleyCats 6-4 in the third quarter, transformed a 9-8 halftime deficit to a 14-13 lead through 3. And a really big O point to start this fourth quarter coming up here for the Indianapolis AlleyCats, who sit at 4-4 with 4 straight road games to finish the season. They control their postseason destiny in the Central. This would be a great win for the AlleyCats to get on the road tonight, a mile high. Evan Lepler, Ian Toner, Chuck Kindred, Kelsey Sparks, along with our entire crew, as the league's all-time leading goal scorer, Cameron Brock, probably will have something to say about how this game finishes in the final 12 minutes. Carpenter's going, and Payne is shooting. Schnushka versus Carpenter. And Schnushka, listen to you, Chuck.
Yeah, Schnushka did not quit on that. Got behind Carpenter. Carpenter's looking for a foul here.
I mean, this is incredible. He started on the inside track, then went to the outside track and made ground such that he could still get there and make the block. That is the Snushka speed and athleticism that we're used to seeing.
Summit looking to double their lead. Errantly thrown the moment it left his hands.
Yeah, I wonder if that was partially flip blocked.
Throwaway goes to Kai Marshall. Hawkins throws it through Levi Jacobs' hands. Intercepted by Snushka, his second block of the point, and now Rodriguez sending Marshall. A sky ball with Payne chasing, and that's a foul.
Yeah.
But there's no call.
Oh, interesting, Monfort.
Marshall can't believe it. It looked like there was contact. Marshall's asking for an integrity, and Xavier Payne shaking his head.
Xavier Payne's like, look at how tall I am. Like, get out of here.
I mean, in live action, it looked like he initiated contact with Marshall's back first.
Yeah, Marshall was in the air too, wasn't he? I don't know.
We'll take a look at the replay. Their third chance to hold this point. A little casual with the catch, but Brock gains some yards downfield. Connie Harris again for Carpenter. This time Travis Carpenter runs it down.
Marshall and Payne still talking after this point.
Yeah, I don't blame Kai. I mean, I would also just say, I mean, I used to play on a team called the Bruisers, and we had 2 rules. You can't call any fouls, can't contest any fouls, because we just considered ourselves too big for that. And if you're a Kai Marshall, you just have to find a nice.
Hard to tell from that angle. Here's the angle that'll tell us.
Watch the left elbow of Xavier Payne.
I mean,
Yeah.
He's into his back.
I feel like, yeah, Kai's up in the air, and Payne he's trying to decelerate, but he can't, and so he's putting the forearm slightly into his back, and it's adjusting Marshall's trajectory while he's up in the air.
Yeah, Marshall was on line to make the catch, and then he wasn't.
That's a tough one for Marshall to swallow.
Yeah, I mean, it violates the Bruiser code, but I think he's got a point.
Well, what did Tim Kefala say to his team last week? He said, you can't worry too much about the calls that don't go your way. You got to keep playing.
That's right. Mental toughness has not been a strength of Colorado. They kind of are up and down, not very consistent, so it's an opportunity to claim that.
Kuhlman back for Feiner. Elliott continues Semron. Minfink next. And Semron shaken up.
Betch on the ground.
Betch
cramp.
having a cramp issue. Tim Elliott, youngster, helping him out.
Yeah, hydration and elevation, man. They don't go together. Ooh.
Just catches you.
Yeah, that's the scary stuff when there's no contact from anywhere else. You just kind of go down.
Yeah, I remember so many times at tournaments, Saturday night at dinner, you're just sitting there, and then all of a sudden, like, somebody just falls under the table, and you're like, oh, that's a leg cramp. I know what that is. It's the worst feeling.
Most ultimate players experience it at some point or another. So hopefully Betch will be okay. We got 8:54 remaining in this final quarter. I was thinking earlier today, really watching Boston Montreal, which went to overtime. There have not been that many overtime games in the league this year. There was DC Philly early on when DC came from behind. Boston surviving Montreal in OT today, a game that really Montreal looked like they were going to win. East Division, we know who the playoff teams are, but New York could still be number 1 or number 3. Any of the 3 could be the top seed, the 2 seed, or the 3 seed. That'll be decided week 13, 2 weeks from now.
Who do you got coming out of the East? Anybody want to?
Championship weekend?
I don't even have an educated guess at this point. I would never bet against Babbitt.
Can I hedge and say I don't think it's going to be Boston?
Is that just personal? Like you don't like me, or?
No.
Yeah, New York. I mean, New York's coming on, right? Like they looked really good.
You just look at the strength of schedules. You know, New York has had to play against Atlanta, and they're playing Minnesota next week. And obviously they played Salt Lake, and DC had to play the Shred, and they played the Flyers, and especially recently against Carolina, they look great. Boston's played Montreal and Toronto and Philly recently.
Yeah, DC might just be more tried and true.
Yeah.
I mean, big change for both those other teams this year. Those are kind of year-one teams almost.
So I do think if DC can get the 1 seed, I like the Breeze's chances very much. But it's wide open right now. I mean, Carolina sitting in first place because they got presumably the win over Philly earlier tonight. They were winning that game, did not see the final. But the first place spot in the South is obviously going to come down to that game 2 weeks from now. Look at this. Betch with a grin on his face getting carried off like Paul Pierce in the 2008 finals.
Hopefully not for the same reason.
Bring that man some pickle juice, Stack.
Oh, he looks happy. Looks happier than I've ever looked with a leg cramp, man. That's the spirit of the Midwest.
Carolina did beat Philly 24-19. How about Houston 10, Austin 9, second quarter score at the pitch in the Lone Star State.
I'll go out on a limb and say Austin is not going back to championship weekend.
Don't go too far out on that limb.
Exactly.
I love Austin.
The outcome here is still very much in doubt. Summit back on top by 1 as Thoresen finds Kuhlman.
Hey, so how about that catch from Kyle Henke last week? How many other players in the league make that catch, you think?
5.
Yeah. The list is exceedingly small.
Yeah, just the change of direction, the explosion, and his length. Beautiful. So nice rhythm on O here, Zeke Thoresen. I mean, it's fun to see these young guys get incorporated into the offense. I mean, I don't know, man. When I was coming up, there were no young guys on the O line. Like, not allowed, man. You're going to have to go out and get some blocks. But Colorado's embraced some of these stars from their college, feeder systems. And Kuhlman having a good day.
I think it's fair to say he has responded to the rough start really well.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Nearly 4 minutes gone here in this fourth quarter. Colorado by 1. The Summit are 4-6. Dreaming of getting to 6-6 and letting the chips fall as they may. Indy trying to avoid dropping to 4-5. With Madison and Chicago both winning tonight ahead of them in the standings. Connie Harris, a low laser, and it's blocked at the last second by Agee.
Gutsy play there by Agee. I'm not sure if he was fully out of position or if he was really aggressively baiting that, but phenomenal effort to make up ground, track it from one shoulder to the other, and then make the play.
That is a tough play, and you can see why he plays under, because there's not a lot of humans that can do what he just did. That was insane.
After the Atlanta game, Michael Fairley said Matthew Agee is one of the 2 or 3 best defenders in the entire league. Certainly has the respect of many of his opponents. But an errant reset between Brown and Yu gives it right back to Hawkins and Indy. Connie Harris for Jacobs, looking for Brock. A lot of traffic in front, so he resets for Gross.
This is how we know we're in the fourth quarter. Look how many guys out there are just standing still.
Jacobs is one of the guys that's moving, and he's got the equalizer. It's 15-all here in the fourth.
Yeah, that all kind of hinged on Rick Gross. You could tell he wanted to turn that over. He was tired. Stepped into a throw that turned over. So look at this block. You can't really see how much space he makes up there.
It's hard to articulate the difficulty of tracking a disc over one shoulder and then turning your head and tracking it well over the opposite shoulder while you're running full speed. That's just such a difficult thing to do that only the most elite defenders can do without sacrificing speed, balance, field positioning, and AG is one of those guys who can pull it off.
To bring it back to the point about Henke, there are a small handful of guys in the league that can make that defensive play that AG just made.
It's a great point.
Including, well, not in the league, but future Hall of Famer Josh Dipperstein, for my money. Nobody faster.
Zip was a legend back in his day. The fact that he's being voted on for a potential Hall of Fame spot right now means he hasn't played in a while.
Wild to think what he could have done on the pro field and the pro circuit with this much space relative to the club game.
That's a great point. With that much more width and another 10 yards of depth, he would be a nightmare to guard.
Tell you what, when I submit my ballot later this week, he's #1 on my list.
I got Tennell, my man. Dylan Tennell.
He's still getting my vote too.
Former UFA MVP, Dylan Tennell.
Oh, he's the man. And he's like, I mean, he's like Brett Holzmeyer if he had like the best flick in the whole game.
Holzmeyer might be having an MVP season this year.
He's got my vote if I got to submit my ballot tomorrow.
I agree with you, but thankfully we got a few more weeks of regular season and then postseason action to figure stuff out. Feiner resets for Kuhlman. Noah had 3 throwaways in the first 15 minutes of the game, but he's been virtually flawless since then. Logan Pruce shifting onto the offense, and he has fit in relatively seamlessly.
This is a really nice job by Indy's defense, setting some opportunistic double teams.
Logan Pruce able to pull it in. It was not the smoothest finish to the possession, but Summit back up by 1 nonetheless.
Yeah, wish we had a timer on how long that red zone possession was, because there were some good rolls and opportunistic switches and double teams by the AlleyCats defenders, and with the stall count rising, Feiner just kind of said, all right, hot potato, it's your turn, Logan.
That was funny, man. Yeah, but they sure do make it hard in the red zone, don't they? I mean, Colorado, nothing's easy.
So that goal puts the Summit back up 1. We're under 5 to play. Let's check back in on the sideline with Kelsey Sparks. Kelsey.
Thanks, Evan. I was just over on the AlleyCats sideline, and the demeanor there has changed drastically since the second quarter, where they were loose and happy and excited. They are very focused up right now. We saw the cramp from Betch. I think they're realizing how difficult it is to play at altitude. However, they're still feeling extremely confident.
All right, Kelsey, thank you very much. Jacobs somehow keeps possession alive for Indy right there, but then Brock blocked by Marshall on the goal line. Quickly picked up by Rodriguez, who finds Matty Jackson to give Colorado the 2-goal lead.
Brock and Marshall having a quick conversation there. I thought for a second that Brock might have thought that Marshall swatted the disc out of Brock's hand before he made a throwing attempt. And I think they were thinking about that for a second, but let's take another look at this replay.
Levi Jacobs showing out. Oh, I don't know, my man. That slipped right out of your hand.
No, that absolutely came out of his hand.
Hey, we all need the same face at certain times in life, you know. Like sometimes you're not having a good day. It's like, hey, just let me win this argument. I know you're right. Let me win this argument.
I almost wonder if Cam meant to throw a pump fake there and just drag Kai out wide, and the disc just came off his fingertips when he wasn't intending for it to.
That is what it looked like, yeah.
How about Rodriguez confidently picking it up on the goal line and dishing for the goal?
I want to know what the coaching staff thought of that. It worked out there. Is that the progression of pickup and looks that they want?
His 4th career UFA assist.
Well, okay. Let's talk about the law of conservation of greatness real quick. Do you guys believe in that? Because what I saw was Levi Jacobs saving a disc that probably should have hit the ground, and then immediately a ridiculous turnover that makes no sense. I mean, in my mind, there's no other explanation for why suddenly the disc is slipping out of Cam Brock's hands. But what do you think? I don't know. Am I the only one who believes in that?
No, that checks out. 100%.
Interesting that Indy took a timeout here primarily to buy some rest for their O-line.
Yep.
Down by 2 with 4 and change remaining.
Yeah, this is a gutty performance from Indiana. I know they really need this win. You know, they're here to win. They're not here to just compete. Who lives in these apartments behind that end zone, by the way? That would be a pretty great place to be, and why aren't they on their patios right now?
Probably college dorms, and the kids are home. We're at the Colorado School of Mines.
I mean, we've got those. If you've been lucky enough to travel to Breeze Stevens Field, you got multiple apartment complexes that overlook that historic site. Gives a whole new meaning to Free Friday Frisbee, right?
Yes, indeed. We got Free Friday Frisbee coming up next week, Minnesota and New York. That's just an ambitious shot. And look, Indy needs to score quick, but that never had a chance.
I mean, that kind of just looks like tired legs to me. Like when my legs were tired, I started throwing laser beams that were way too low and fast.
Stacked pretty deep and disconnected here from Colorado after this turnover.
AG keeps it alive with Gudeman laying out. Timeout Summit from the sideline.
That's a great call right there.
3:40 to play.
Yeah, love that call.
I know the Indy O is tired, and there's an argument that you want to gas that group out, but at the same time, you could see the stack was disconnected from the handler set. The double teams were giving Zeke Thorson and some other guys some headaches.
3 minutes and 40 seconds. So if we just keep the ball moving and feel no pressure, we can just play around all the time. Okay? We're not in a hurry. Four in the backfield. Four in the backfield. Hey, make them come take it. They have to come take it. 1, 2, 4. Come and take it.
I mean, I love that from Atkins right there. That is exactly the calm, cool, straightforward, uncomplicated, simple message that group needs to hear right now. It's mindful of the situation, it instills confidence, and it gets buy-in from the rest of the group.
Yeah, and you're in the lead and you need to play like you're in the lead. You know, he said, make them come take it from us, you know. Don't take a risky shot. Make them somehow create a turnover, and if they don't, we can play catch for 3.5 minutes, head home.
Indianapolis does have 13 blocks tonight. They're down by 2 late in the game. And an immediate deep shot from Atkins. All the way to the end zone, and what a catch! Atkin Arnstein with a play of the night, and maybe the play of the year.
You know, a quiet night from Arnstein, but turns it on when it counts. And Atkins, out of the huddle, saying, let's just play catch and take care of the disc, just rips a bomb. And look at Arnstein just close out, full extension. What a play.
I mean, were those guys just showing up to the NFL Combine and running their 40? That was ridiculous.
Side-by-side layouts. Atkin Arnstein and Jack Gall leaving it all on the field.
That is the best feeling in the world. When you give it everything you got, full speed in front of the home crowd, you catch a goal. Wow.
Does Atkins lose any credibility in the huddle next time for what just happened?
I mean, yes. That was hilarious. That dude is funnier, almost funnier than he is good. And he's really good.
That was insane.
3-goal lead, largest lead of the night for the Summit. Indy really on the ropes. It was an impressive first half for the AlleyCats. They created a lot of pressure, but they were just 2 of 11 on break chances in the first half. Colorado hasn't given them nearly as many chances. In fact, the Summit O-line has only turned it once here in the second half. A lot of guys deserve credit for that. Logan Pruce certainly high on that list coming over. Kuhlman, Atkins, Feiner, Min Fink, ball been steady. Carpenter sneaks it through. 2-goal game with 2:42 to play. And we'll see if the Cats can create some chaos here defensively, or if Atkins just says bombs away on the first throw once again.
I mean, I'd certainly expect some Central Division creative trickery, roller pole, set the double team in a weird spot, perhaps on the sideline.
Yeah, one thing Colorado's got to do is cover this pool. I mean, they've let so many pools roll out the back, and that is just a lack of discipline.
Nick Hutton prepares to pull for Indianapolis. There's one game in the UFA tomorrow. And a SoCal battle that has significant ramifications for the summit between San Diego and LA. Atkins bluffed like he was going to launch it once again.
And I love that decision. Maintain possession, eat clock.
I mean, there's a world where Colorado just completes passes for the next 2 minutes. They do not need to score. Another impressive night, more often than not, for Tim Elliott. Kuhlman sees the wide open man. Elliott pulls it down, absorbs the contact from Davenport. Back to Kuhlman, who has been turnover-free since halftime.
Colorado clearly not interested in scoring here, just trying to run the clock out.
In terms of quality of wins that the Summit have had this year, certainly the victory at Salt Lake is number one. I know they beat Seattle early in the season, but that was a Cascades team that didn't maybe have the confidence as it has now.
Yeah, second night of a back-to-back with a lot of contributors, but not its true full roster.
This would be a nice win for the Summit is the point, especially with the way the Cats fought in the first half. What a find Tim Elliott has been. Comes from an Ultimate family, played as a kid, going to Colorado State this fall. Tim Kafawa said he really liked this guy Tim Elliott ever since he first saw him at club tryouts last year. And now he's looks like he's cramping up a little bit. Veteran Matty Jackson, guarded by Gudeman. Kuhlman, back to Matty. That was the right choice. He could have forced it up the line. And now Jackson floats it to the end zone, and Kuhlman drops it with just under a minute to play. AlleyCats need to hurry. And a travel called because he could have set a pivot foot immediately, but once he started walking to the goal line, he had to take it all the way. So this is a travel, and a timeout will stop the clock with 35 seconds left. And the AlleyCats need a miracle.
So if Indy loses tonight, what do they have to do to get into the playoffs?
Oh my goodness.
They need to win their last 3 games. At Detroit, at Pittsburgh, at Madison.
It's hard to, it's hard to win on the road. I know those are winnable games, but it is hard to win 3 games all on the road.
And the Breeze-Stevens confines have been quite friendly to the AlleyCats over the last few seasons.
After it was a haven of nightmares before that. That rivalry has certainly flipped in recent years, with Indy winning one close game over Madison after another. Everybody plays each other. I mean, it's going to be interesting. And look, Minnesota losing at home tonight to Chicago. They lost at home to Pittsburgh. They're back home next week for a nice, easy game against the New York Empire. Indy needing to fire. Wettengel versus Marshall and Atkins. And nobody can make the catch. There's no call. Colorado has it with the time ticking away. Atkins hammer for Pruce. Big swing to the Summit sideline where Seth Ferris brings it in. Wasn't pretty tonight for the Colorado Summit, but they got a home win. An interdivisional Super Series win over the AlleyCats, 18-16.
Yeah, Colorado did what they had to do tonight. Showed heart, kept fighting, won at home. I mean, it's been a weird year. You know, the Celtics just won the NBA title and have never been particularly good, this team, in the playoffs at home for some reason. Sometimes it's just you got to get the monkey off your back, and I think tonight they did what they were supposed to do. They held court.
Colorado steps one win closer to the 500 mark. They're 5-6 with one game left in their season after a 2-goal win tonight on their home field over the AlleyCats. We'll be right back.
On the grand stage to keep possession alive. Huge bid, gets the touch. It's a great opportunity for the Germans, and they break with ease. Throw it the full 80 yards to the field? Are you kidding me? And an incredible catch. You are kidding me. Oh my God! One of the plays of the year.
Colorado Summit victorious at home tonight, 18-16 over the Indy AlleyCats. And we are joined by Colorado's Noah Kuhlman. Noah, thanks for joining us. Kind of a microcosm of the season tonight. It wasn't always pretty. You had a bumpy start to the game, particularly offensively, and yet your team kept battling. How proud are you of yourself and your team for getting this win?
I mean, yeah, I'm absolutely so proud of the team here. I feel like every game we've really come out and kind of just fallen away in the first quarter. And, you know, it was something that we've seen game and game again. So when it happened tonight, you know, we just leaned into trusting each other, doing the best we can, and then just really, like, taking pride in, like, all of our matchups. We knew that we could go out there and take care of business whoever we were against. And so just really leaning into that, that helped. I'm super proud of everyone for that.
Noah, congrats on the dub. We heard second or third hand that in the halftime huddle, your coaches kind of told you that everyone needed to step their game up, that they weren't playing well. Can you take us back inside that huddle, what that conversation was like, and what it meant to you as a group?
Yeah, well, I feel like I'd just really like to shout out Chance Cochran with that. You know, he's been a leader in the Colorado scene for a long time, and he really stepped up, gave us some words of wisdom, pointed out how each of us are so individually talented, but together we've been more than that, and so it was just really powerful to hear that from him in that huddle and then get out here at halftime. The O-line did its job. The line punched in a couple breaks, and we walked away with the dub, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Noah, you're so good at so many things out there and a lot of fun to watch. What's your favorite thing to be doing out there? Do you like hucking? Do you like breaking the mark? You like D? You like cutting D? What's your favorite?
Yeah, Chuck, I don't know if you watched that week, what was that, week 3 Salt Lake game where I skied the entire pack, but that's probably my favorite part of the Frisbee right there.
I did see that. That was pretty good, man.
Noah, clearly you've made a lot of plays. You've also experienced some adversity. How do you deal with that adversity in the flow of the game to overcome it and lead your team to a win?
You know what? I'd say it really starts like outside of the game. Like in the game itself, I'm just trying to be out there living my best life, like playing Frisbee, enjoying myself. But really off the field, like not taking everything too seriously, just focusing on like putting in quality work every single day. And then when I'm out there, just knowing that I've put the work in and relying on that to carry me forward, not thinking too much.
Hey, what was your perspective when Atkins told everybody out of the huddle to take it easy, and then he hucks it deep and Atkin Arnstein makes maybe the play of the season?
Would I say I'm surprised? No. Was I excited? Yes, I was. It was awesome. I can't complain.
All right,
we took care of it the next point. So
you got one more regular season game left. Obviously, the chips will fall as they may with San Diego and Oakland. What do you want to do to finish this season the right way and make your case to potentially be a playoff team?
Yeah, you know what? I'm not really trying to think too much about the playoffs in general. Just trying to take care of business and like really improve as a player personally. And I feel like that's what everyone on this team is really trying to do. Like we have people from all over, all different club scenes, and so just making sure that we're building up a successful community, getting fans out here, and putting on a good product for everyone. That's what we're really focusing on.
Great stuff. Well said, Noah. Thanks so much for joining us. Congrats on the win tonight, and best of luck going forward.
We'll see you guys out tonight.
Perhaps.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir. Briefly.
Right.
We'll
Thank
see.
you.
Thanks, Noah.
Bye.
Updated West standings. The Summit one step closer to the Spiders, who did get to 6-4 tonight with a comfortable win over Portland, but Oakland has their last two games against San Diego and LA, teams that they're above in the standings, but teams that they have not beaten on the road in nearly a decade.
Yeah, Oakland, I don't know. Oakland's got to exercise some demons here to get to the playoffs. They can absolutely do it. They've got winnable games, but SoCal has been a painful, painful place for them.
Everything's still up for grabs in the West. Certainly Seattle and Salt Lake have a big game coming up on the final Friday night of the regular season. It was a bumpy start tonight for the Summit, a draw-pull, shaky offensive rhythm and flow, but they kept on fighting and they found a way.
It was really a tale of two halves, right? Indianapolis in control, asserting itself, maybe leaving some opportunities on the table in the first half, but they definitely controlled play. Colorado's offense found a new level of consistency in that second half. If they can bring that against LA next week, they're going to do all they can to give themselves a shot at the playoffs.
Final score tonight, Colorado 18, Indianapolis 16. You look at the stats, the AlleyCats 4 of 13 on their hucks, 3 of 13 on their D-line conversions. That tells you the story of the night. Atkin Arnstein, the play of the day, as the Summit prevail, 18-16. For Ian and Chuck and Kelsey, I'm Evan saying good night from Golden. Colorado victorious in the UFA Super Series tonight.